welcome. This is Amy Henderson with the Georgia Municipal Association. We're always really excited to be able to bring to our members great content about things that cities are doing that are improving operations and just doing awesome things. And I think it's interesting. I was reflecting that last week was National Infrastructure Week, and often when we think infrastructure, we think about roads and bridges and water and all that. But looking at this, it really reminds you that lighting is such a valuable part of your infrastructure, and it's great to see how Macon-Bibb County is planned for and is using theirs so well. So this morning, we've got Rob Riles, who's the Director of Facilities Management in Macon-Bibb County. He oversees a staff of 54 people responsible for everything from general maintenance to traffic operations. Jason Smith, who is the Facilities Management Electrical Manager for Macon-Bibb County, and his function is responsible for all electrical maintenance, remodels, renovations, and infrastructure upgrades and improvements, including street light, roadway lighting. And then Marina Light, who is the Director for Public Sector Government Solutions with Phillips Lighting. Marina works with the public sector executives all across the country, helping them to develop strategies to transform their cities with light through public safety and economic development strategies. And I really want to emphasize the key things that Macon-Bibb County did was really have a strategic plan for what they were going to do with their lighting. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Marina. I'm gonna encourage people, if you have questions, please type it into the chat area on your screen, and we will certainly get to those. So with that, Marina, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Thank you. I've been excited to share the great work out of Macon-Bibb with everybody throughout the state of Georgia. All big ideas start with a plan and a vision, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the implementation. What I'm showing you here is a picture of a pedestrian bridge that's been lit up with that beautiful architectural lighting that Phillips Lighting is also well known for. And I love pictures like this because it really typifies how light really changes everything. And this was a new area in the city being redeveloped, and it's created quite a positive impact on the residents and visitors alike. So we mentioned that Macon-Bibb started with a plan. The mayor really had a vision as the city and the county were consolidated. He had some top priorities, including public safety. He wanted to upgrade and standardize infrastructure. He wanted to be sure that there would be standard and equal services to all the residents. And so with that, a lighting implementation plan came to fruition. And I'm so happy to have Rob and Jason with us to talk a little bit about that implementation. And I wanted to just start by opening up and just asking both of you about the first steps that you took to actually implement the mayor's strategy.
Well, our first steps, this is Rob, our first steps to move forward with some improvements and putting together projects together that would improve our street lighting infrastructure and future projects that would to include things such as accent lighting, lightscapes on some of our beautiful historical buildings and monuments, among other things, was to implement an RFP for a company to enter into with Macon-Bibb to establish a master lighting agreement, to have a go-to consultant concerning all of our lighting needs, and to help us out with this, give us ideas on some projects that we could pursue and implement. The RFP was evaluated by an evaluation committee, and it was awarded to Phillips Lighting. We then met with Kurt Whittington of Phillips Lighting, who is our lighting rep, to discuss potential beneficial lighting projects to fulfill our lighting needs and our desires. Street lighting was the first major area that we decided that we needed some improvements on. I have been a founding member of the Pedestrian Fatality Review Board, was the original name of the committee that Macon-Bibb established to help curb and do something about pedestrian fatalities throughout the county. We later changed the name of the committee to the Pedestrian Safety committee because we not only address accidents that involve fatalities, but we also address accidents and locations that are prone to accidents that may or may not result in a fatality. So that pushed street lighting to a forefront for us, and so that's the first project that we really started on, first big project.
That's fantastic, and we're going to talk about the implementation of those that LED upgrade strategy. But I always like to ask about cross-departmental collaboration. Was there anything that happened that way for all of you in the city there?
Well, for Macon-Bibb, due to our departmental structure, we collaborated with the Mayor's administration and finance departments, as well as the Board of Commissioners for approval, to get funding and approve funding for the projects. They were the ones who conducted the funding and financial aspects of it. There were, whether we would use bonds, whether we would use some SPLOST money. We have money set aside for blight, which improving roadway lighting in areas that were that could be considered as a blighted area because of very little lighting, which also invites crime. But we had to involve them. But mainly, as far as implementing the project, this department, facilities management, is solely responsible for the street lighting infrastructure and the controls of it and the maintenance of it. So once we got the funding established, it was primarily just facilities management.
Okay, good. That's the perfect point here to jump forward. Go ahead and we'll talk about the actual LED conversion that you did in the cities. We like to share this data about how much energy and positive impact it is on sustainability goals with converting to LED. And I know that your city has long history and commitment to clean air programs and strategies. But here's a picture of one of the new lights, but I want to share this next slide here, a little bit before and after, and wanted to ask both of you to share about, feedback from the cities and sort of the difference in light quality, and then also talk a little about the process of the conversion.
Well, we've had overwhelming positive feedback from the citizenry. We've had citizens state to us that I wouldn't let my kids go out and play after dark, but now it's safer, and because of the additional light and the quality of light, we've had positive feedback from law enforcement. This LED lighting actually gives them the capability to actual better color rendering. If they're pursuing a vehicle, or if they're identifying a vehicle, actual colors of vehicles are easier to distinguish. And but overall, just overwhelming positive response from everybody. We had some unique challenges going into this project. Jason and I were I was a relatively new director, for one, and Jason was new to our department, and neither one of us had a firm grip on the infrastructure that we had as far as street lighting, but we were very familiar with it. But one of our main data collection concerns was to gain an very accurate inventory of our own street lighting and assets, and as well as the GIS locations on it, which was absolutely necessary in order to establish the maps and the grids for the city touch control system. That helped us to get a firm grip on what was out there, which was very beneficial.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you don't always think about, the sort of the unanticipated benefits of the lighting strategy. And I wanted to ask you about that. Other just surprises, or you mentioned having a new record of location of where all the lighting is, and we're going to talk about that technology in just a second. But any other anticipated benefits or surprise outcomes?
Yes, there was it was very, very beneficial relief on the electrical infrastructure. Some of our street lighting wiring, electrical distribution was somewhat aged, and when you reduce the load on these circuits going from high pressure sodium to LEDs, then you're also relieving the load on the electrical distribution. That was a major. The Macon-Bibb has downsized in employee count. My department has downsized, I would say, 25 to 30% since consolidation. So everybody's having to do more with less. This new lighting infrastructure, as well as the control system, has greatly reduced our number of maintenance calls and man hours. Before these improvements, we had to send out details at night to view and identify street lights that were out, relied on that, as well as the citizens reporting them. Now we have the on-demand City Touch control system that alerts us when we have an issue with lights. So that's kept way back on man hours as far as troubleshooting and knowing what problems are out there to begin with. Plus, there's information on the City Touch control system that'll basically diagnose the problem before we leave the shop. So it reduces man hours running back and forth getting parts for a particular problem when you already know what the problem is before you leave the shop.
I love that, and that kind of goes in line with some of the early goals about, upgrading and standardizing the infrastructure and streamlining the operations. So you've been referencing the City Touch control system, and this is a connected lighting platform, one of our favorite topics. So not only did you do the LED upgrade with the lighting, but you also installed a control system. And this is a picture of what it looks like. It's really quite a simple installation. So we're going to talk a little bit about, sort of this new technology. You've referenced some of the improved operations and maintenance features. Anything else? I mean, could you talk about what occurred when you installed these nodes and sort of the process your team went through? That the node is this piece here on top of the light.
Right. The Philips nodes that links up with the control system allows us also to remotely control, dim, or the street lights. We shy away from dimming the street lights because we have such a positive feedback on the amount of light, the quality of light, and as far as the benefits from having the additional lighting as well as the improved quality of lighting, we typically just leave the lights burning at full capacity, which is still a tremendous reduced amount of energy consumption, reducing the carbon footprint. As you mentioned, we've been members of the Clean Air Coalition for quite some time and very active with that association. Also, the City Touch control system, like I said before, it allows us to know what problems we have. If we were to have, sometimes our Parks and Rec department puts on movies in the park, and we'll have a big open park area where they'll put up a big blow-up screen and have movies. We can dim the lights just around that park area to enhance the movie experience, and then bring them back up once the movie is over. And we can do all of this remotely. It also allows our technicians on the scene, on site, to manipulate the power supply to the fixture to troubleshoot it, we can kill the power to it to work on it remotely while we're in the field. We can then re-energize it with a laptop in the field. Just a tremendous amount of luxuries and benefits.
Thank you so much. I wanted to check in with Kirk. We have Kirk Whittington from our Philips Lighting team also here on the line with us. And I was just curious, Kirk, you worked on this from the very beginning with the mayor, and I wanted to ask you if you wanted to add anything else with regard to the connected lighting system, the City Touch system. You might not have been expecting that question from me.
Sorry, it's been a great relationship. This is Kirk Whittington. I apologize. It's been a great relationship with the Macon-Bibb just because we sit down and we strategize on exactly what the goals are before we implement anything. And that has been a great process throughout the whole couple of years that we worked together. The strategy part, I think, was spot on with what Rob was talking about early. The mayor has a vision for how he wants Second Street corridor to be, how he wants it all around Mercer University, and it's been fun actually to implement that strategy, and working with these guys has been fantastic. Jason, you might want to talk a little bit about what all happened with Poplar Street and what all's going on in that area, because new construction and change is a big part of how the adaptability of City Touch and how you can do that. So.
Yeah, I'll just give you a few words on that topic before we move to the next one. Something that we were able to do with the control system, City Touch, is we were able to work with a couple of nonprofit organizations when they put Christmas decorations all up and down Poplar Street, which is, they're revitalizing it down here in downtown Macon. So to get the most emphasis out of the Christmas lights, the displays, and the music that went with them, we were able to establish a schedule for the City Touch lights up and down that street. We were able to, turn them off a few minutes before the event would happen, and then at the end of the night, they would come back on at a predetermined time, and, this was all done remotely, scheduled, and it made it a lot easier than having to send somebody out there and turning them off and on manually, or covering up photo sensors.
I know that can be, the Christmas light, the holiday lights can be a pretty expensive endeavor for a lot of cities, actually. So I'm sure this has been a cost saver as well.
It was, but our particular Christmas extravaganza, lighting extravaganza up and down Poplar Street was taken on by a private entity association that through a grant, and so that helped us out a lot. But we were instrumental in approving the design up and down Poplar Street as far as electrical distribution for the Christmas lights, and as Jason said, scheduling our typical street lighting so it wouldn't conflict with the Christmas light display.
I see. Okay.
This is Amy again, and I just wanted to say, if you wouldn't mind, that sounds like such a great kind of partnership to have with a community organization where you're trying to redevelop. Does that help with your community relations?
Sure, it does. We have many partners. I mean, such as the Urban Development Authority, Newtown. There are many different entities that are actively helping to improve downtown Macon, and this was just one prime example of how the partnership can benefit everyone.
I wanted to ask both of you about your recommendations to other Georgia communities who want to get going on a strategic lighting program. What would some of your advice be?
Well, I would strongly urge to any other municipality to establish and implement the master lighting agreement with a company, a very reputable company that's on top of their game with lighting of all types. We consult with Phillips about indoor arena lighting, street lighting, any kind of lightscapes. Any form of lighting, I get with Kirk, and we look at the project and try to put together something that's within the budgeted range and see what we can do to get it established. But the main thing would be to establish that master lighting agreement, and one of the main purposes is once you establish a master lighting agreement with a firm, it eliminates the necessity to put every small individual project out for bid, and eliminates the having to jump through a lot of procurement hoops, as we all understand.
Yeah, it definitely. Those are called a master services agreement. I'm going to call on Kirk again so he can get ready. But this was pretty unique and very forward-thinking strategy, the way you did your procurement with the master services agreement. And one of the reasons we wanted to partner and share the story with GMA today, with the Georgia Municipal Association, was there's some special language in the master services agreement that I'm going to let Kirk talk about a little bit. That is could be of interest to other cities in the state.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen. I appreciate it. It's pretty short and sweet. Procurement is always an issue when you're working with, or when any city is trying to get a master agreement of some sort like this. So, within the Macon-Bibb agreement, there is a piggybacking clause that allows any city or government entity to use this publicly procured agreement, and they can use that and develop their own master services agreement. So it is a very flexible, it has been completely vetted, it has been publicly bid, and it is something that any city, county, or government entity can use. So I would love to, I see that there is a question here regarding that, and I'll be happy to share that information or get that information to whoever would be interested in it.
That's terrific. Amy, I'm going to let you facilitate some questions from the audience or a few of your own.
Right. Yes, definitely some folks said they would like to see the master services agreement, and also from Macon-Bibb side, I think some folks would like to see the RFP that you originally put out for that. One of the questions I have, and going back to the strategic planning, and I love that you're planning with goals in mind. Like, this is what we're trying to do. How do we get there? Give us a sense of kind of time length of how much time was put into the planning part of it, and then how much was implementation.
That's a great question. I'm going to, Rob and Jason on that. I know that the plan had 4 basic components, and that was decorative lighting, like what we saw with the pedestrian bridge, the upgrading of street lighting, the lighting asset management that we've talked about, decorative fixtures, and then, other interior lighting upgrades that we referenced at the end. So those were sort of the components, and then maybe Rob and Jason on planning versus implementation.
Well, I think the planning, and Kirk is more familiar with the planning stages before it got to our department as far as designing a project and implementation. But I think a lot of it is going to hinge on available funding, and once you get that settled and get a budget for a project, Kirk and his team are excellent at providing a design with the most benefits possible within that budget range. And once that happened and we started the implementation, this thing, it rocked on. The installation, training, our phase 1 project, we implemented, upgraded like 1,600 street lights, and it seems like it happened overnight. I mean, it was extremely fast, and we're putting together now a phase 2 project, and now that we've done a phase 1 project, we're putting together a phase 2 project, then going back to the administration for funding for phase 2. If we have to dial back or scale down the phase 2 project, we're putting together the project for what we want phase 2 to include, and then we'll dial back based on the amount of funding we can get secured through administration.
That makes sense. Just real quick, Amy, and then I'll throw it back to you for other questions. But I wanted to share this slide. We're really, at Phillips Lighting, we're spending a lot of time thinking about how that street lighting infrastructure can serve communities, and it serves it in so many ways as sort of a foundational piece to other kinds of data. We've talked about data today that can report to you about your street lighting infrastructure, condition of the lights, need for maintenance, the ability to control that infrastructure for festivals or other activities, or just neighborhood comfort. But we're also very forward-thinking and how to use lighting adjustments to improve pedestrian safety, to actually when we have those beautiful decorative installations like you saw there with the pedestrian bridge, we have social media applications that would comb social media sites and give you insight about what people are posting and saying about your city. So these are just some of the big ideas that I wanted to be sure to plant as food for thought as cities start thinking about what a strategic lighting plan would look, how it would look for them.
Marina, this is Kurt. May I add a little bit to that? I think that's a great start because every event, every trade show, every type of conference that all these folks that are on the call would go to, smart cities is a huge part of those conferences now. And all of these lighting assets that we're talking about are truly the foundation for doing any type of smart city solution. So that's just and that's what this slide actually on the screen gives you the capabilities of doing, because every city has different needs that they want to try to accomplish. So it's nice to have the system-ready luminaires as we have now, and the ability to do a lot of the improvements with, for your smart cities with these type of applications. So.
Yeah, this is not just about putting up a light anymore. So thank you so much, Amy and Bob and Jason, and I'll let Amy close out with other questions. Or
sure. Yeah, I think we're good with the questions that we're going to post this on our website, so folks can go back and look at it again, and I'm sure we'll send out emails so everybody has contact information as well. I think that will be good for them. And I just want to say one of the things that I am just so struck by all of this is what a great marriage of technology and art, because that pedestrian bridge is really, it's not just lighting, it is actually art, public safety and economic development, and I love that you have that social media monitoring. It just, so much that you can do with this, and I think, great to see more cities doing that. So thank you all for your time this morning.